be real. Keep it 100. Caitlin Clark has been on the receiving end of this sort of stuff way too much.
Right now, there's one picture that's all over the internet that people can't stop discussing. The most significant player women's basketball has seen in a generation was struck in the throat with a closed fist. There was not a single call, whistle, or response from the officials present. Millions of people had already viewed the video, yet the league did not take any action until the next day. That picture is more than just a basketball game moment. It serves as a symbol. Furthermore, the WNBA may end up defining a whole period of this league's history, and not in a way that anyone should be proud of, depending on what it does next. Consider what it will take in 2026 for a sports narrative to stand out from the crowd. Everybody is constantly vying for attention. Nevertheless, for a whole week, the sports world was only able to discuss this tale, this moment, and this picture. ESPN panels, millions of people have viewed social media posts and late-night radio. People who had never witnessed a WNBA game in their life, coaches, analysts, and former players all stopped to share their opinions. That degree of saturation is not a coincidence. It occurs when people observe something visceral and indisputable and are unable to reconcile what they are witnessing with what they were told was happening. Alyssa Thomas today, Marina Mabrey last year, or Carter from the start. She has been the victim of this far too frequently, receiving technicals for clapping and fouls for holding her arms straight up in the air. Then there were the closeouts, or careless closeouts, as you may refer to them. I posted earlier today, and I said that she will suffer harm. If this continues, she will have a back problem. How many times will the same 3 or 4 players continue to cheap shoot Caitlin Clark repeatedly before the referees take any action? Since this tale is more complex and bizarre than most people realize, and it did not begin with the game on Wednesday night, we will analyze every single item that occurred this week. This is multi-layered. It is made worse rather than better by the context. Additionally, the league can no longer sidestep some topics that it has been avoiding for the past 2 years. If you're new here, please click the subscribe button and give this video a like right now. This is the kind of tale that should be viewed by as many people as possible. Let's get started now. To understand how we got here, you had to go back to Monday, June 23rd. Caitlin Clark was playing the best basketball of her career going into this matchup with the Phoenix Mercury. Straight games with at least 20 points and 5 assists, a run that no WNBA player had before achieved, according to the record books. In terms of points per game and assists per game, she ranked 3rd and 2nd in the league, respectively. After an injury-plagued 2025 season, she was totally focused, the kind of focus that makes discussions about MVP seem inevitable rather than speculative. Caitlin Clark was the driving force behind the Indiana Fever's genuine development. Most of the time, defenses were unable to contain her despite their best efforts. It is hardly a hot run to go 20-5 in 6 straight games. That's a claim. Then Monday came. Clark and Duana Bonner, who had been her teammate prior to a messy and public split with the club last season, became tangled near the free throw line in the 4th quarter. Eyebrows were already raised in the building when Clark was called for a personal foul. She gave a clap. She clapped. That's it. The kind of reflexive, irritated, competitive applause that professional basketball players give each and every night in every arena. She was immediately given a technical foul by official Gerda Gatling. It's nearly unbelievable what transpired when the location erupted. 5 more technical fouls were called in 8 seconds. Bonner received 1. Sophie Cunningham received 1. 1 was given to Myisha Hines-Allen. Alyssa Thomas received 1. On the very next possession, Hines-Allen was dismissed from the game after receiving her 2nd technical of the evening. In less than 10 seconds, there were 6 technical fouls. It was absolute mayhem. However, Clark was unable to let this one go. And that response made perfect sense considering what the league had been doing to her throughout the season. She didn't hold back when she walked directly to the cameras after the game. She claimed that when she immediately questioned the official about why she had been awarded a technical penalty, the response she received was to clap and provoke. Yes, it is absurd. For clapping, I received a technical. If I'm going to receive technicals for clapping, we should all simply look at the calendar and choose a game for which I will be suspended. When I asked Gerda, she replied, I got a technical for clapping. That is the technical that should be removed. They claimed to have given it to me for clapping, if that's the case. It was intended for applause. Thus, it is absurd. It is completely beyond my comprehension. She informed the referee, "You just don't like competitive basketball," since she thought that was so ridiculous. "It's absurd," she said. She stated that the league should set a date for her punishment right away because the maths was already pointing in the wrong direction if she continued to receive technicals for clapping. She publicly identified Gerda Gatling as the official in question and fought for an instant appeal, which most likely resulted in an extra fine on top of the $1,000 penalty. That didn't appear to worry her too much. She was clear about her stance. She was going to continue manipulating her feelings. She would continue to play passionately. And the league has a problem if it wanted to award her technicals for that. This is the bit that sticks the most. For doing the exact identical thing, clapping, Dallas Wings guard Paige Buchers was given a technical foul earlier in the 2026 season. The WNBA reviewed the call, revoked it, and erased it from the record. No penalties, no fines, and no suspension points. However, the league upheld the decision when Clark's similar circumstance was examined. 8 technicals resulted in an automatic 1-game suspension, and her 5th in 17 games was locked in. The calendar sprung to life all of a sudden, and a level of fury that had nowhere else to go was fueled by that double standard, that inconsistency that was visible for everyone to compare. Monday was that day. Things drastically worsened 2 days later. The rematch will take place at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Wednesday, June 25th. The two teams are in the same building, but the vibe is very different. Clark had a point to make, and he was making it. She had another 20 to go. Her unprecedented streak would have continued with a 10-assist effort. Alyssa Thomas then became aggressive. Thomas elbowed Clark during a play early in the game. It was clear. By any fair standard, it was blatant. Not a call. The authorities ignored it. Then came the moment that has now been replayed millions of times on every conceivable media. In the end, Clark was on the ground, frantically searching for a lost ball. She was close to Thomas, who put her closed fist against Caitlin Clark's throat. While the play was still technically live, not a single referee sounded their whistle, nor was there a bump, shove, or fist to the throat in front of the officials. During the game, the play was not called in real time. A fist of the throat was observed while the referees were there, yet nothing was done about it. Then something worsened the situation. During that same scuffle, a second camera angle that was later examined revealed what seemed to be a knee pushed into Clark's crotch. Look at that. Thanks once more to Alyssa Thomas, there is a fist placed against Caitlin's neck. However, there was more to it. The knee pressing into the groin is clearly visible from that other perspective. And again, nothing, of course. No response, no stoppage, no call. After finishing the first half, Clark discreetly quit the game in the third quarter due to a back ailment. She never came back. In barely 20 minutes, she had scored 19 points and dished out 8 assists. The timetable was hard to deny, but no one on the show could say with certainty whether her departure was related to the physical torture she had endured. She took a knee to the body and a fist to the throat before leaving with a back issue and never returning. The videos went viral more quickly than anything the WNBA had produced during the season. The video had already gone viral by the next day, Thursday, when the league responded. Alyssa Thomas was punished for 1 game after the WNBA declared that she had committed a flagrant foul. According to the league's official terminology, she carelessly struck Caitlin Clark's throat with her fist. In one game, Cruz, the referee, reviewed the punishment for a closed fist contact to another player's throat in real time. Cruz declined to take action and only changed his mind after social media made it impossible to defend the non-call. The following day, a fist of the throat resulted in a 1-game penalty. Fans labeled it what they thought it was as soon as the game was decided. Clark missed the second half, and millions of people who had never watched a WNBA game saw the clips. Not fairness. Not defense. Damage management. The type of reaction that appears to be activity but primarily serves as optics management. Because while the officials observed and remained silent, the damage had already been done in real time during the broadcast. And that's the part that keeps coming up. The contact was not concealed during a missed call in traffic. Slow-motion replay was not necessary to comprehend this unclear circumstance. A Twitter outcry. Shouldn't be necessary for a fist slammed into someone's throat to turn into a blatant 2. Those tasked with protecting the players in front of them ought to have called it on the spot. Stephanie White, the head coach of the Indiana Fever, turned out to be the most unexpected voice in the entire narrative. White had been cautious and restrained in her public remarks criticizing officiating during the whole season. After other dubious games, she had not criticized the referees. Even if the circumstances seemed to demand something more forceful, she had maintained her composure. However, something broke open following the game on Wednesday. She took the microphone and described what it sounds like to finally let out 2 years of pent-up rage. Reporters were informed by her that a no-call was completely impolite and outrageous. She claimed that despite the league's commitment to uniformity and reform of its officiating methodology throughout the off-season, this continued to occur. Then, from inside the organ, she said what the crowd had been waiting to hear. Organization, that Indiana has a WNBA superstar and a generational talent, that the game was very unacceptable, and that 2 cheap shots were not called. Those were powerful words, and they were important. Because the connection between Clark, the coaching staff, and the larger league atmosphere had been complex and occasionally perplexing for more than 2 seasons. It was a warning when the Indiana Fever coach demanded that her player be identified by using the terms generational talent and WNBA superstar. The fact that it required a fist of the neck to generate that statement tells you something crucial about how much pressure had been building and for how long, regardless of whether you read that as long overdue or as the bare minimum owed. In a different play, White also highlighted Clark's uncomfortable fall to the ground following a closeout foul on a 3-point shot. Even though Clark was clutching at her back right away, officials looked at that play on the court and decided not to improve it. If the event involving the fist of the neck is the headline, the secondary sequence is the fine print that exacerbates the overall ugly image. The WNBA then unveiled its 30th anniversary poster on Wednesday night, as if this week had more to offer. The league is commemorating 30 years of existence. 30 players from the WNBA's past and present are featured on the poster. Legends, current celebrities, and representatives from each series. The kind of memento that is intended to capture the essence of the league and generate some revenue for merchandising. It doesn't include Caitlin Clark. Sophie Cunningham, her teammate, has a fever. The reaction was swift and vicious. Diana Taurasi, who played for 20 of those 30 years, was also missing, according to fans. Sue Bird was left out. There was no Tamika Catchings present. There were several all-time greats absent. However, Clark's absence was felt differently because she had just been fouled, elbowed, kneed, had a fist shoved into her throat, had been called for a technical foul for clapping, and witnessed a 1-game suspension imposed the following day for an action that should have been caught in real time. The timing couldn't have been more explosive. Here's the subtlety. According to sports business analyst Darren Rovell, the NFL did not intentionally disrespect Clark by leaving him off the poster. Clark's image rights are not owned by Wincraft, the firm that created the poster. The majority of licensees are prohibited from using Clark's picture outside of her Nike contract due to her strong control over her likeness. Wincraft was able to use her number and name, but not her face. Logistically, then, she wasn't passed over. She simply couldn't be included. That is a valid explanation. The problem with explanations, though, is that trust is already damaged. They land differently. When a fan base witnesses their favorite player being mistreated for 5 days, continuously being let down by the officials, having a punishment arrive 1 day late, and then seeing her absent from the league's own anniversary celebration poster. The difficulty is not immediately resolved by the licensing explanation. It turns into yet more piece of information in a narrative that already has far too many negative chapters. In the words of one fan, she is the reason millions even pay attention. We depart if she does. That's not hyperbole. The WNBA leadership ought to put that economic fact on a wall somewhere. Since the pattern is not new, let's take a step back and examine it. On a play in 2024, Chimney Carter hip-checked Clark without even having the ball. During the game, it was not flagged. Later, the WNBA retroactively raised it to a flagrant foul. Marina Mabrey was involved in some controversial physical incidents. And now, in just 5 days in 2026, Alyssa Thomas has been the target of 2 distinct violent events. A knee to the torso on Wednesday, a fist to the throat on Monday, and an elbow on Monday. The players, teams, or market are not what these occurrences have in common. It is the real-time officiating response. Plays that are not called. Penalties that are applied after the fact. A review procedure that appears to wait for public indignation before reaching findings that were clearly clear from the video. Here's something to consider. Clark receives a technical for clapping and a call for standing with her hands in the air. In the Monday game against the Mercury, she was called for making contact after being elbowed,